So, what will I say now? In one way, I don't know. In other ways, I know, because everything has been quite thoroughly mapped for me personally. This is not for the people who want to hang on to this permanently, especially, or even temporarily. I'm rebellious and abrasive for some good reasons. I keep telling people I want to be a defluencer, not an influencer. I want the wrong people to go away, because the tipping point has been reached. There will be no new creation. There will be no new prosperity and safety coming after this moment in time. That is my personal conclusion to analyzing things for up to decades, as well as having the personal experiences I have. They're taking the boats away. I bet those bros are going to be wrecked now, and I bet that me doing the right thing turns out to be a stupid thing after all. I could have nabbed one instead of bureaucracy. Anyway, there's some moral aspects that are worth not messing with. So I've published one video now about building this team, and that's going on this old YouTube channel. And I have maybe more than 100 hours now of different videos going through different aspects and challenges and some solutions. Some of it from a kind of a negative or like defensive posture. See if I publish all of those, I don't know. What I mentioned in yesterday, like the video I posted was building a team, and that includes being able to post things very effectively. So I'll see what I get around to. And if not, it's there for posterity. I just hate seeing that. Two totally okay boats being dragged away because someone broke the rules, and maybe it's well deserved, I don't know. So there are many aspects that I need to go into in a way more thorough, structured, calm way. But I think that's for later. I need to start building this. So I'll do one about all of the possible things one might need. And that includes what one might do well, pulling together in a trusted kind of inner core or trusted tiny gang. And these are the premises. Anyone who understands that it's better to get out of the West, and then you can come back and rebuild in constructive ways. I'm not going to rebuild. I'm not going to build anything again because it nearly finished me off. That's the backstory. I created jobs within this hybrid system while I was crawling across the floor myself, literally. All I got was manipulated Anyway, I lost everything. I had to walk away from it. It was too dangerous. So I realized that it's done for. I've seen this economy, this so-called prosperous and so-called free and open society being. I've seen it being ripped apart. The first things I remember was things like the discussion around all of these foreign style cows that came, and that must have been the 70s, maybe 75, 76 or something. Suddenly there are alien cows out on the fields and everyone were debating it. We don't need that here. The local cow variation is totally suited to the terrain. We can produce milk all over the place. Well, now you have to preserve that race of cows. They might go extinct after thousands of years of breeding. And this is the same in other countries that I know about on the planet. What happened now? Well, they literally poisoned all of the cows in several countries. And I've seen the numbers from the internal report. This is with Denmark. 400 farmers reported, and 376 reported cows getting seriously sick. Some died, some just collapsed, because they pushed chemicals into all of the cows to reduce the methane. You don't need to look into it if you don't know about it, but it's absolutely insane. It's insanity on such a scale that it is really, really, really scary. And it is the same as Lysenko in the Soviet Union. It's actually the same as psychology of what Mao did during the Great Leap Forward? I can't remember. You can look these things up, it doesn't matter. So the premise is that the technocratic West, and I think maybe even some technocratically led areas on the globe, will be dragged down into utter sheer madness. All sorts of collapses, like food is an obvious one. Freedom has already happened, and with freedom collapsing, and then any kind of entrepreneurship collapses. That's a side that I know quite a bit on about from a small scale perspective. Then I see the other side, traveling a little bit like I've done through Europe on small roads in old vans for years, and sailing, and well, that was in my own coastal waters, but I've been all over the place. And it's close to a decade since I exited, like more than half the year, tax things. Others have seen way more than me. But I think so many will agree now that several tipping points have been reached. Another tipping point is that when I talk to people on the ground outside of Europe, I see that now finally I can get some points across. Because even just a few years ago, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago, it was very hard to describe the situation here, because people would just not believe you. Why? Because all of the official information coming out of the West has, of course, propagated unanswered through the media of so many other areas on the globe. I do not know the specifics here. I just see the kind of like the psychology and dynamic. And that leads, hopefully, and I think this is the case, a certain number of people who are in nations that are have more intact traditions, cultures. Doesn't matter which. Actually, it doesn't. And they see these kind of processes. And this is the thing that has bugged me the most. I can't even cry out a warning because of where I have been residing. Not a complaint against where I've been at all. It's just the mass psychology of it. So there is a certain understanding that, oh, something is up globally. And while the West is unraveling the way it is, it's panicking. It's like a wounded beast. So it will strike out in any kind of direction. Which is one of the reasons why I haven't ever done anything close to this. Because many of these things have been so obvious. Some of the aspects of it was obvious when I worked at this big hospital, like the regional hospital, in the summer of '87. Some aspect when it comes to personal resilience and what is a sane way of handling actual stressful and tragic things happening in a society, like in a culture. Some of the things that I knew I couldn't discuss freely even happened during the summer of '87. I've done the details of that story in another video, and I've been writing something about it on Stack News, I think. So usually I got a lot of pushback. No, you can't think like that. No. You can't try to be free and strong. That's where it comes from. In this area of the world. More unruly areas. Way more understanding. And this is the point. The people in unruly areas of the planet who understand, who want to stay and build, well, you might still want an online job. You still want to interact in the world to defend your own. And then those who, for different reasons, have to move out. Some people, when I go into this subject, some people go like, oh, I just have to stay and fight. Well, no, I've done that for 30 years. I've done my part on standing my ground. And since my body is kind of worn out because of all of this, and because I can be useful outside, especially setting up some kind of outlet so that people do not do stupid things, so that people can build and basically be useful in a long perspective. Of course, I'm not going to stay here. If I was forced to stay here, it would be a different matter. And this monologue, this would be a bit different, but not very much, because I'm done. I'm very good at flying under radars. And I know that many of the honest, entrepreneurial people here have been doing that for years. Like extreme tall poppy syndrome, extreme conformity, no understanding that if you do something like running a business, things will be messy. And the rule sets should adjust to reality, not the other way around. You can bring that back to the cows. Stubborn insistence that, in this case, there's more or less proof now that this one chemical product has been spun off as a separate entity that is for profit under the guise of climate, whatever. It's like a free-roaming beast. It will come back. But there's been some very strong, very healthy resistance around this issue. And I just long for getting to cultures on the globe that actually hold cows sacred, because I mean that could be a nice point to discuss in very peaceful, constructive ways. So these are the premises. It's taking me 15 minutes to just set the scene here, and the reason is it needs to be clear because things will get misunderstood, especially when you are dealing with a culture, a system that has literally gone off the rails. And I am not alone in that assessment. The other premise is that this is, like I said, for anyone who wants to realize that they should get out. Get out. Young or old, assets or not, even if it is for a short while to recuperate and see the world from a different angle. And then go back. I totally respect that. Especially if you learn something doing so. As I mentioned, I'll be doing my best to make the nasty close-minded people back off, basically. Can I say that on YouTube? We'll see. And the same way of anyone who's just living in delusions, like childish delusions, well, that won't work. Unless they're willing to have like rude awakenings. That happens. So, okay, the practicalities. What do you need? I'll try to do a list. It's off top of my head. Well, you leave. Then you need visas and these things. This is not for wealthy people. They've got enough resources. It's also not for the people who cut corners in irresponsible ways. I'm not into that kind of thing. There's many options in terms of totally legal setups. Then there are like grey areas where, in many countries, like digital online work is not regarded as actual work, and if you produce content and then you publish it after you return, it's definitely not work. And this healthy, normal kind of, you need to call it grey zones. You call it in between zones where it's no problem, because you're not hurting anyone locally. You're not going against the local culture. You might even go along with it by doing it that way. Because believe it or not, if you come from the West, especially the last few decades, it's normal to have a little flexibility in rules and regulations. And it's normal that people who behave get away with it. Not even get away with it. It's normal that people who want to be just constructive, who are decent people, who adhere to the local culture, they will be left alone. The windows for these things are narrowing in some areas, and there's a lot of change here. So, which is why you need, this is my sales script, which is why you need some inner circle to discuss these things with. So the next thing is, in war zones they are called fixers. The type of person who fixes everything. If I'm back here, let's say in 2 or 5 years, I think the EU will break apart before that. But if I'm back here and it turns really nasty, I could be a fixer, because I know all of the systems. I know how the bureaucrats think. I know how. I could easily be a fixer. But that term is a little bit not negative, but maybe there's a tiny stigma to it, because with a Western mindset, if you need to fix something, oh, you're doing something wrong. It's not the case. quite often it's totally legit, totally above the board, totally accepted by the bureaucracy. This is totally possible. The other word for this is agents, like visa agents you have. Like agents that can open bank accounts for you and all of these things. There's a lot of content online about this, but the challenge is that you can't really discuss it. Like all of the ifs, if this goes wrong, can I trust this person? Where do I check that this is legit? All of these things you can't really discuss online. And if you have a tiny band that discuss this in sensible ways in a closed little online secure community, that can be a real asset. Then you need exiting, you need help on the ground. Long term, I've always been commenting that if anyone wants to go to Nepal, I might be able to help in some ways, because I know people who have far more experience there. And since I got ill towards the end of a visa period, I've used one of the very well-renowned agents to totally legally just extend for a month, because I honestly was not up to going there and doing it. Which means that I have a trusted contact already. So long term, I want this kind of membership, bring this kind of tiny group that is building in healthy ways to have some options for on-the-ground solutions. But there is also something to be said about, I wouldn't hesitate too much breaking open a new country, even a so-called dangerous or messy one, if I have to or if I choose to, because I've done it a couple of times. I've wanted to do it several times before launching this, but circumstances kind of put a stop to that. I'm hoping to do a tiny trip through the Balkans and in Egypt, and pick up a couple of bank accounts if possible, and reconnect with a couple of people in Egypt. And there's like some kind of tiny online community in Alexandria and all of these things before returning to maybe via India to Nepal. We'll see. All of this would be available in the setting. I'll share something for free, of course. This is how you sell things. Actually, you tell people all about the why. Why should you do this? But you don't give them any of the how, or a little bit. So, yeah, this is going to be commercial, but in a very modest, rebellious, resilient way. That's been the plan. So let's bring it on to the next. You need. The financial side is not so easy. I mean, if I was like magically transferred into a young body right now, with the knowledge I have now, I would get the hell out right away, even if I had nothing. I had that hunch when I was 16, 17, 18. I had this big thing going on. I should just jump out the window, walk in that direction, travel in that direction for a long time, and then I'll be okay. That actually led to Asia. I had this urge to just get a tiny boat and start rowing out at sea, and like have everyone see me come back again and again in rough weather, and then one day just leave the boat and let it wash up on shore, and then play it from there. I literally wanted to disappear. This is not possible any longer. I actually think that part of the reason for the control grid is to actually rein in the few people who have done this and who are doing this. From the Western perspective, I think that could be part of it. I've met people who live totally off the radar. But I'm not going to do it. And I don't think such a tiny membership thing can support it. Unless the time calls for it. We might have, I think we honestly might have a breakup in Europe that is close to what happened to Yugoslavia. That will be karma, basically. So, we'll see. So you need some kind of, even if you exit on the fly, if you exit, I would say I think it's less risky and more realistic to exit as a young person. This is just what I'm saying. Like, if anyone takes this advice and end up basically not existing any longer, it's on you. Because everything is on you once you start living in truly free ways. But to have more experienced people around you is a good thing. So someone young who exits with almost nothing, but who can work their way, I think they have an easier time adopting, and I think they are safer through all of the danger than someone exiting who's old, got lots of assets in a bank, and who have got no alternative payment gateways and haven't got a clue when it comes to diversifying, not in terms of investment and assets. Like, all of this comes from a perspective of not having a lot. I haven't got a lot, but I got a little Bitcoin, and that's enough for me to fund a couple of trips and setting up a new company, and I will see. And I will always travel with a couple of tiny gold coins in my that pocket on the jeans, the tiny one. Was actually used for the gunslingers of the Old West. They used that for carrying silver coins, so that when they ended up dead in a duel, someone could use that silver coin to pay for their casket, because they wanted to be honorable. So I'm carrying like half an ounce of gold in that pocket. And then I know that I am, if something happens, wherever on the planet, well, I haven't got much, but I got maybe a month of a runway to totally reconfigure and totally, like say I'm in the east somewhere, and everything closes down, and then the internet closes down. I don't think that's possible. But to say it happens, well, I wouldn't be the only one experiencing that. And I know that almost any place on the planet, there would be some kind of, I would be able to exchange that gold coin for some cash or even food. And if I haven't done my job in connecting to people locally, before that happens, I would be dead in the water. But if I have located and got good relations with quite a bit of people on the ground, well, the first thing I would have to do is make sure that I can, let's say I can get half a ton of rice or whatever, or 200 kilos of rice. Just go out, just take half of it and go around and just give it away. Not to new people, but the people who you know are dependable in their own ways. Just an example. So I think you need this kind of contingency planning when you're doing the nomadic thing. You can do, this is nomadic prepping. This is chaos prepping. So many others do a lot of good stuff on the stand your ground thing, but I can't do it. I had a house and I did prepare, but here literally every single building is totally controlled. It would be pointless. Which is why my contingency plan here is to buy a boat again. I had my own boat for 20 years. It's raining now. I have to think. I have to shield my camera a little bit, because this is my means of production. So you need. Oh shit! Why the hell am I quoting that nasty demon? But it's true. Because the next thing is, my former self would say that I'm not sure if I could pull this off. My current self will say now that it is totally doable to make a living through all of this. I spent a couple of years thinking that I could build something in the privacy space. I know the privacy space well. I exited, including using my voice and face, which I never thought I would do, because I realized that there's a couple of things. The risk-benefit ratio, it doesn't make sense, because people take like real risks producing good products, and they don't make a living because the customers don't see the value yet. Once they need it, the price will skyrocket. The other thing is the psychology of it. If you stay in the privacy space online continuously, for good reasons, you get very paranoid. And it's very, very hard to break out of that bubble. So, privacy tools and security tools, this is part of the inner core, of course. But for me, it was not a viable track. Is it a good thing to have someone in that space, in a team like this? Sure, absolutely. But not if they do not understand the risk-reward benefit. And not if they are loose cannons that might pull the team down. So that's the parameters of that. I've been using AI to synthesize and summarize and work with all of this material. It's like years of me being on my own and figuring these things out, and then doing videos and having my AI summarize and transcribe and summarize, and it makes sense. On the website that I put up for now, there's a couple of business plans that include technology and like vibe coding and AI, and that already sort of work. I totally know that I can pull it all together in a set of software that supports a group like this. So that's coming, including anonymous, totally secure login using Noster and things like that, and a DAO for internal voting, and this is in the works. Me doing this is, first of all, marketing myself, because I'm not gonna do the stupid thing that I've done too many times in the past, which is to be too idealistic. But I sincerely, totally want to build a team like this, and it has started. We'll see how we can add to it. I think for now 5 to 6 members is a good thing, and then maybe a dozen, and then if it scales beyond that, well, we set up another separate but collaborate, like a separate team, a separate inner communication hub or membership ring, and then you spin off another one, and then maybe you keep all of the user data anonymously, like totally anonymized between those, and you synthesize and share the actual information between these. And there are different reasons for doing it this way. One is managing people, the other is external circumstances. Here, historically, there's a quite interesting story about how the resistance was built, how they failed, how they then got it right, and how they then got very close to being totally rolled up towards the end. And there's a very interesting story about some interviews that happened right after. I'll leave it at that. This will obviously only be discussed in detail inside. So I'm marketing this for myself, but I'm also marketing it with the intention of getting somewhere. So, the freedom movement, the wider freedom movement, the global one that goes across any kind of artificial divides, that's where you start. That's where you get the tiny portfolio jobs, where you get to really test yourself and where you know you're on the right side. And that the next step is to turn around. You do two things in the next step. You take the cases and you wrap it into marketing material, and then you get more customers within that sector, of course, but in the freedom movement, in the wider human movement online, you need repeat customers, because almost everyone has low budgets, of course, like me. So you can't charge the hell out of people. It can't be idealistic, pure. There has to be some compensation. And we can do this with the super low cost of living in some of the countries that I mentioned earlier on. And this is part of the startup now. So you want to have repeat customers. Then you turn these examples, like the portfolio jobs, into proof of concept, proof of competency, proof of being able to deliver, and then you turn towards more fruitful ways of getting a healthy cash flow. And that can be more established content creators. There's a lot of code now that is working for separate functions on turning a creator's publishing stream into something really effective that I've done on AI. So that is a product that can be sold. Then you have consultancy. In my previous companies, we had this ongoing debate: should we do consultancy or not? Paid, but we have to spend a lot of our mental resources, a lot of our time getting it right, or should we just do? We did do two things. I had one web development co-op, and I had another photography / video production agency. So we had the same discussion in both. And I'm not sure. This is up to the inner team. And the inner team if it ends up being a handful of freelancers, you just collaborate loosely, that's fine. If it ends up being that, but where we also produce a single product and throw that like a wedge into reality itself. Okay. But after doing the freedom space, where like Bitcoin and Monero and crypto payments is just up for grabs, you turn around and you get some repeat customers, and then you can use fiat and bank accounts. And once that has been proven to work, because I mean, come on, I mean, accounts get shut down easily, don't they? So once that works, you can take on more traditional clients if we want, if the individual member wants. This is the complete roadmap to first setting all of this up, and then hunting for tiny bits of income, and then scaling it in an organic way. And there's a ceiling here, of course. It's not going to be. No one's going to end up being rich, but you can get a lot of freedom, and that's the point. That's the whole point. To be resilient, to survive, to retain the freedoms, to build in constructive ways, and collaborate between those who've had enough, and those outside who see the threats that are coming in. That is my purpose, I see now. I'm not sure if this camera is It's supposed to be secure when it comes to light rain, light drizzle, so I'll keep it going a little while. What more is there? Well, there's all of the things that are related to just thriving. There's a reason why all of these movements started merging a while ago. And I found it fascinating because in my own life all of it was merging, and I was not able to publish or write anything about it because of this fantastic merging of all kind of fields. But I can't. I'm open to anyone from any kind of profession being a member in these types of things. But there is this online tech component, I think. But that can be like my education is actually as a therapist. Like I have a medical background when it comes to the formalities of things. But you can't do that online easily. So even someone who is running an offline business would be smart if they add online capabilities like these. That's my basic thinking. But I'm open to anyone doing offline, and then we are into the field of like health and food and all of these things. This and of course the deeper reason why you want to stay free is that you want to stay human, stay like a coherent human with a deep spirituality going on in your own head. If you want to discuss it or not, that's the deepest level. All of these things can be categories within. I'm not sure if it should be. If you want to make money, you push things in one direction. If you want to be idealistic, you can go in forwards in all directions, like we heard a lot in the army as a joke, of course. This is the kind of the total wrap-up. There's, of course, lots of details, and there's lots of resources that I and others have collected through the years, and there's a lot of informal knowledge that is not documented. AI can do this. And that's it. That's a description. That's the longer version of what I'm building. I'm gonna get seriously wet now. As if that's something to even complain about. Just nature. Good luck. There's one more thing. I'm back now after the rain, and I'll do this in IR because the lightning is just horrible. Yellow, green. So I'm here back with my laptop, which is all of the AI stuff and the Bitcoin and stablecoin payment things. Everything is in there. But also another thing is in there, and that is like prototypes for automatic gathering of intel. Open source, totally, of course, like the open source, like the software is of course open source, but here the information is open source. So I want to include in this a tool that lets creators and /all members get lifetime warnings or like reports from what is happening online, and that can be like a set of hashtags for YouTube channels. It can be like Twitter and all of these things to see trends, to get help for on when it comes to what's the topic of today or what's the topic last week, and what are my competitors doing, and maybe embedded in all of that there will also be later, because this is relatively easy to do, but later there will be like lifetime monitoring of things like visa and like changes in bureaucracies, and of course the members like this will have these interests, so like any kind of manual information gathering and will also be shared, and a lot of this can actually be synthesized and presented in very concise ways using AI, and then that can be discussed internally. So this is an important part of it. Maybe that can be a product towards the outside world in terms like especially like the trend analysis and logging tool, reporting tool. Probably won't become rich, but it's a very good way of, like a tripwire product, to give almost away for free, used internally and then build from there. That is an integral part in all of this, so I just needed to add that. Yeah. If it's gonna stay, if this weather continues, who knows? But I'll continue doing videos, and I won't stop. Nothing will stop me now.